Hello students, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to learn about the reproduction in sphagnum. So let's begin. In sphagnum, reproduction takes place by two methods, that is vegetative as well as sexual methods. Let's see the vegetative reproduction first. Okay. Vegetatively, it reproduces by means of innovation. Remember this term innovation. Now, what is an innovation? You see, sometimes one of the divergent branches grows upward and becomes as strong as the main stem. Such an apical branch is called as innovation. Now, do you remember the divergent branches? We have discussed in the previous video that there are two kinds of branches in the sphagnum gametophyte. What are they? Those were the divergent branches and the pendant branches. Now, how does the vegetative reproduction takes place? First method is that one of the divergent branch will grow upward and will become as strong as the main stem. Okay, that branch of the divergent branch, or we can say, is known as innovation. Okay, now what will happen? Due to the progressive death of the lower basal part of the main axis, the lower or the basal part of the main axis will slowly or progressively die out. Okay, as a result, the innovation that is formed will get detached from the mother plant and ultimately it will give rise to a new plant. And this phenomenon is responsible for the extensive growth of sphagnum in nature. Okay, this was about the vegetative reproduction. Now let's see the sexual reproduction in sphagnum. Sphagnum may be monoecious or dioecious. Okay, I hope you know the meaning of these words, monoecious or dioecious. Okay, monoecious means both the male and the female sexual organs are on the same plant. Okay, and dioecious means they will be situated on different plant. Now but you see this, the male reproductive organ, that is antheria, and the female reproductive organ, that is archegonia, are born on special branches known as antheridial and archegonial branches respectively. Okay, remember this point. In case of sphagnum, antheridia and archegonia are born on special type of branches known as antheridial branch and archegonial branch respectively. Now in case of monoecious plants, what will happen? Both the antheridial branch and the archegonial branch will be occurring on the same plant, but in that case the antheridial branch will develop before the archegonial branch. Okay, now let's begin with the antheridial branch. Okay, now see the diagram given at the left side of the page. Do you see this diagram marked as A? Okay, this structure is known as the antheridial branch. Okay, these branches are usually shorter but stouter than the vegetative branch. Now compared to the vegetative branch, this antheridial branch is what? Short and also stout. Okay, what is the shape of this branch? It is spindle shaped. Okay, and it is densely covered with different kind of colored leaves like yellow or red or dark green. Okay, and the leaves are smaller than the foliage leaves. Clear? This is the antheridial branch. The branch is spindle shaped. Okay, and it is covered with, densely covered with red, yellow or dark green leaves. Okay, and the leaves are smaller than the foliage leaves. Clear? Now let's see the structure of antheridium. This is the structure of antheridium. Okay, what do you see? A body and a stalk. Okay, so it has a long stalk and a globose or ovoid body. What is the shape of this big thing of this body? The shape is globose or ovoid. Okay, now what do you see around this body? You find a jacket. Jacket is single limbed. Now what is inside this jacket? Inside this jacket there are a number of androcytes. Okay, now what will these androcytes form? Each of the androcyte will metamorphose into a spirally coiled biflagellate antherozoid or sperm. Okay, clear? So the structure is very easy, the structure of antheridium. Okay, now we move on to the development of antheridium. How does the antheridia develops in case of sphagnum? Okay, we will see that. So the first point it says that Antheridia develops singly. It occurs alone and acropitally below the leaves. Now we have to again move on to the upper diagram. Okay, this was the antheridial branch. When we longitudinally cut this antheridial branch, we get a structure like this. Okay, this is the LS or longitudinal section of an antheridial branch. What do you find here? These are antheridium, right? These are arranged. How are these arranged? Acropitally. Means the youngest ones will be at the top and the oldest ones will be at the bottom. Okay. And what do you find? They are separated by a different kind of leaf. Okay. These are the leaves. So let's repeat the same line again. Antheridia develops singly and acropitally below the leaves. So below each leaf, okay, how many antheridia we find? 1. How are they arranged in the entire branch? They are arranged acropitally. Okay, now you see there are several steps in the development of antheridia which is written clearly here. Okay, I will move on. I'll discuss the same points in the diagram given below. Okay, you later follow this points, the discussed points here by comparing here. Okay, so let's move to the picture. Now see, antheridium develops from a superficial antheridial initial of the stem. So antheridium will develop from this cell. The cell is known as antheridial initial. What will happen then? The antheridial initial will develop a small filamentous structure. The terminal cell of this filament is known as apical cell. Okay, antheridial initial was there. It will form this type of filamentous structure. Okay, and the top cell of this filament is known as apical cell. Now let's move to step number 3. You can see here I have marked the steps. Okay, what happens in step number 3? The apical cell is further differentiated into a 14 to 15 cell structure. Okay, so this was the apical cell. Okay, it is divided into several cell structure. Okay, you please note the differences in color. I have marked this apical cell as green color. Okay, and the other cells as black here. So what is happening? This apical cell will divide, okay, number of times, and out of this some like 2 to 4 cells, distal cells of this apical cell division, they will again divide periclinally. Periclinally means parallel to the surface of the organ, okay, or the plant, and they will form the body of the antheridium. Okay, and the remaining of the cells will form the stalk. Okay, you can compare this to the final diagram. This was the part. Okay, this green colored part will give rise to this body. Okay, and this lower black colored part will give rise to this stalk. Okay, now what will happen? You see, each of the distal cell, now this green color cells are the distal cell. What is the fate of this distal cell? Let us see. Each of them will give rise to 2 different types of cell. One is the blue colored known as outer jacket initial cell, and the other is the red colored known as inner primary androgonial cell. Now can you imagine this structure dividing in this way? Okay, means the distal cell will divide and it will form an outer jacket initial cell and an inner androgonial cell. In this way all the distal cells will divide. Okay, you can imagine and compare the structure to this. The outers will be blue colored and the inner will be red colored, right? Now what will happen to the inner primary androgonial cell, means the red colored cell? It will divide and form, or it will develop into androcyte mother cell. Okay, androcyte mother cell will later develop into androcytes. Okay, up till now it is clear. There was a distal cell will divide into an outer jacket initial cell and inner primary androgonial cell. Means outer side will be blue and inner will be red. You just remember this way. Okay, and the inner primary androgonial cell will again divide to form androcyte mother cell. Androcyte mother cell will develop into androcyte. Now what will happen to the outer jacket initial cell? All the blue color cells which are formed, okay, you see here, all the blue color cells which are formed, they will lie continuously next to it, okay, and it will form a single layered. This layer is known as jacket, okay, and this androcyte is present here. The jacket encloses a number of androcytes and they together form the body, okay. Below this body we find the long stalk, okay. Now what will happen to the androcyte? Each of the androcytes present here will metamorphose into a biflagellate antherozoid or sperm. In this way, what happens? Antheridium is developed. Let's have a quick revision on this. Antheridium will develop from a cell known as antheridial initial. It will then divide and form a filamentous structure. The top cell of the filament is known as apical cell. Okay, apical cell will divide to form a large body. Okay, and 2 to 5 cells of that body will divide periclinally to form this type of structure. Okay, known as a mass of distal cells, okay, and this lower portion will give rise to the stalk. Now the distal cell, each of the distal cell will divide to form an outer jacket initial cell and the inner primary androgonial cell. The inner primary androgonial cell will again divide to form androcyte mother cell. Each of the androcyte mother cell will later develop into androcyte, okay. So we find the final structure as this way. There will be an outer jacket. The jacket is formed from this jacket initial cells, okay, and jacket encloses a number of androcyte. Okay, so jacket and androcyte together comprises the body, and below the body is the long stalk. So the stalk and the body together comprises the structure of the antheridium. Each of the androcyte will later metamorphose into a biflagellate antherozoid. Okay, so this was about the development of antheridium in sphagnum. Now let's see the dehiscence of antheridium. How does the antheridium dehisces? Okay, or it liberates the antherozoids. What happens is that this apical portion of the matured antheridium, it will absorb water, okay, and it will swell up. Therefore an inner turgor pressure will develop, and because of the pressure this jacket wall breaks out, okay, and as the jacket wall breaks out, the androcyte mass will come out and the antherozoids or the sperms will freely swim in water. Okay, that was about the dehiscence of antheridium in sphagnum. The same thing is written here. Clear? Okay, now let's move on to the archegonial branches. Now see, archegonia are born at the apices of the archegonial branches which develop at the apex or laterally. Okay, like the antheridia were born on antheridial branch, archegonia will also be born on the archegonial branches at the apex, or they will be developed laterally on the branch. Okay, the archegonial branches are very short and more or less oval in shape. You can see this entire structure. Okay, it is very short and about ovoid in shape. The leaves on these branches are larger than those present on the foliage leaves. So the leaves present on the archegonial branches are much larger than the normal foliage leaves. The upper leaves of the branches constitute the pericytium enclosing the archegonia and thus protect archegonia from injury. Now this you can see this upper leaves, okay, the leaves going to the upper surface, they are kind of protecting this group of archegonia, right? These leaves are known as pericytium. Okay, remember this name. Okay, now let's see the structure of the archegonium. The structure of the mature archegonium is quite large. Okay, it has a long stalk. It has a long stalk, a long twisted neck. The neck is quite long, as you can see. Okay, it is quite long and twisted neck. How many neck canal cells are present? About 8 to 9 neck canal cells are present. okay, and it contains a big venter, multi-layered venter. You can see there are several layers around the venter, okay, so it is called multi-layered venter. What does the venter contain? It contains two kind of cells known as the upper ventral canal cell and the lower egg cell. Okay, so this was about the structure of archegonium. Now let's see the development of archegonium. Now, archegonia develop on the apex of archegonial branches either singly or in groups. Okay, the apical cell of this branch forms the primary archegonium. 2 to 5 secondary archegonia develop from the derivatives of the apical cell. Usually there are 3 archegonia in a group, that is, 1 primary archegonium at the apex and 2 secondary archegonia emerge from the base of the primary archegonium. As you can see, what it says is that suppose this is the archegonial branch, okay, so in this archegonial branch the archegonia will develop at the apex. Okay, normally 3 archegonia occurs in a group, okay, and out of the 3, 1 will be the primary, the one at the apex will be the primary, like this you can see it is a primary, okay, and below the primary archegonium there lies the other 2 secondary archegonium. Here you can see there is 1 secondary archegonium. Okay, so to better understand this, let's move on to the picture given above. Let's see this structure. Okay, here what you find, 3 archegonia are in a group. Okay, suppose we consider this central as the primary archegonium and the other 2 which arises below it are known as, the central one is the primary archegonium and these 2 are the secondary archegonium. Okay, so that was about the concept of its position. Now there are several steps in the development of archegonium. Okay, you can compare these steps after I discuss it on the diagram given below. Okay, so I will discuss the same steps using this diagram. Clear? Let's see. Now let's go to the step number 1. What does it say? It says that archegonia develops from a cell known as archegonial initial. Okay, then what happens in step number 2? The archegonial initial will divide by a transverse division, okay, and it will form a filament, about 6 to 7 celled filament. Okay, and the terminal cell and the cell present at the apex of this filament is known as terminal cell. So this was step number 2. What happens in step number 3? Please note the colors. Okay, here was the black color, archegonial initial. It divides and it forms this filamentous structure. All the cells are black colored except the terminal cell, which is marked as red color. Now what happens in the third step? The red colored terminal cell will cut off 3 periclinal jacket initial cells. Okay, it will divide and it will form jacket initial cells, about 2 to 3 jacket initial cells and 1 primary axial cell. Please note the color. The primary axial cell is at the center, it is green in color, and the jacket initial cells is marked as blue colored. Okay, and the others are same here. Let's see step number 4. Now what happens? This green colored primary axial cell, okay, it will divide and it will form 2 cells known as covered initial cell and a central cell. The covered initial cell is shown here as green colored only, but the central cell will divide, okay, and it is shown as a brown colored. Sorry, the central cell is indicated by a brown color. Okay, and the rest are same. What happens in step number 5? You see here, the central cell will divide to form again 2 different types of cell. The upper light blue color is known as primary neck canal cell. Below that is a pink colored marked cell known as primary ventral canal cell, and the rest all the cells will be same. Okay, now what will happen in the step number 6? The covered initial will remain as it is, and the primary neck canal cell, what it will form? It will form a long neck, okay, comprising of about 8 to 9 neck canal cells. Okay, what will happen to this pink colored primary ventral cell? It will again divide to form a ventral canal cell and an egg cell. Okay, now let's move on to the step number 7. What does it happen now? This cover initial cell which was present, it will divide to form about 8 cover cells. Okay, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, 7 to 8 kind of cover cells will be formed by this cover initial. Okay, it will cover up the tip of the archegonium, and the remaining will be same. The neck was already formed, ventral canal cell and egg cell comprising the ventral is already formed. What is remained? This jacket initial is remained, right? The jacket initial by anticlinal and periclinal divisions forms the jacket. Okay, forms this jacket. Okay, the archegonial jacket is formed by this jacket initial by anticlinal and periclinal divisions, and this black colored portion, it will contribute to the stalk of the archegonium. So this was about the development. It will be quite easy for you to remember when you just mark the different parts with different colors. Okay, and when you just draw this way in simplified manner and remember the steps, then I don't think that you have to memorize it. Okay, it will be clear to you all, right? Okay, now let's move on to the last part of today's video, that is fertilization. Okay, antherozoids are liberated and egg is also produced. Now what will happen? There will be fusion of the both gametes, that is known as fertilization. The process of fertilization takes place only in the presence of water. As you know, in case of Bryophyta, for fertilization water is must. The antherozoids will swim freely in the water and they will reach up the archegonia. At maturity, what will happen? The neck canal cells and the ventral canal cell will disorganize and form a passage for the antherozoids. Okay, the neck canal cell and the ventral canal cell, this light blue color and this upper pink color, they will disorganize. Okay, and they will form a clear passage, a way for the antherozoids to reach the egg. Okay, the antherozoids reach near the archegonia, attracted chemotactically, and pass into the passage to reach the egg. Now why do they reach the archegonia? Because they are attracted by some chemicals secreted by the tip of the archegonia. Okay, ultimately out of many antherozoids, only one will fuse with the egg and form a zygote, which is diploid. Okay, so this was about the reproduction of sphagnum. In the next video we shall discuss about the sporophyte of sphagnum. Okay, so if you think that my videos are helpful to you all, then please subscribe to my channel and put your feedbacks in the comment section. Until then, goodbye, take care.